Hi everyone, this is an Amalgia video for Animal Crossing New Horizons on the Nintendo Switch, and today we're going to be talking about how to catch all the rare beetles that appear on trees. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to skip over the drone beetle, horned dynastid, saw stag, and Miyama stag, as they are really easy to catch, and you'll have a million of them by the time you catch all the other stags. I'll also touch briefly on the blue Weevil beetle, even though it's not all that rare, but some people have had trouble with it. First up, I have some general tips. There's some beetles that appear on trees and others that appear specifically on coconut palms. For example, the giant stag and the scarab beetle can appear on trees, which also means they can appear on coconut palms. But beetles like the golden stag would only be able to appear on coconut palms. It depends on your town's design, but generally speaking, most people are going to have a lot more trees than they do coconut palms. This is one of those times where planting more coconut palms, if you only have a few, will be helpful in your search for these bugs. If you don't mind changing your layout and you're past the point in the game where you have terraforming, you can actually put down patches of sand and plant coconut palms anywhere in town. They don't necessarily have to be on the beach. If you don't want to change your town layout, a good idea may be to go to a Nook Miles Island. And if you are so inclined, you could even bring palm trees to a Nook Miles Island to have more than 4 spots at which you could catch these rare beetles. Anyway, we've got a lot to go over, so let's get to it. First up is the blue Weevil beetle. It's only worth 800 bells, and it's not all that rare, but I figured I'd include it. In the northern hemisphere, it's available between July and August, and you can catch it all day long. In the southern hemisphere, it's available between January and February, and it's also all day long. This beetle is one of the ones that can only spawn on coconut palms. If you're looking for the blue Weevil beetle, it's probably better to try to catch it during the daytime, since at night all the other beetles can spawn on the trees that it can spawn on, and it may make it rarer than it actually is. Next up is the rainbow stag. It's worth 6,000 bells. It spawns between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. You can catch it in the northern hemisphere between June and September. In the southern hemisphere, you can catch it between December and March, also between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. The rainbow stag spawns on trees, which means it can also spawn on coconut palms, so keep an eye out for it all over your town and not just the sandy areas. It's one of the easier stag beetles to catch, and its month range is a little bit more generous than some of the more difficult ones. Next up is the cyclommatus stag. It's worth 8,000 bells. In the northern hemisphere, you can catch it between July and August, between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the southern hemisphere, you can catch it between January and February, also between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. This stag only spawns on coconut palms. It has very long mandibles, and it sort of looks like a giraffe stag, but its shiny green shell is what sets it apart. Next up is the horned atlas. It's worth 8,000 bells. In the northern hemisphere, you can catch it between July and August, and it's available between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the southern hemisphere, it's available between January and February, and also between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. The horned atlas can only spawn on coconut palms, and it's pretty easy to spot because of its 3 horns. It's moderately rare, but it shouldn't give you too much trouble if you're trying to catch them all. Next up is the Goliath Beetle. It's worth 8,000 bells. In the northern hemisphere, you can catch it between June and September, between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the southern hemisphere, you can catch the Goliath Beetle between December and March, also between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. The Goliath Beetle only spawns on coconut palms, and it stands out. It's pretty easy to catch, unless you're stupid like me and aim for the top of the tree instead of the beetle. Here's a redo, for real this time. Smooth as sandpaper. Anyway, moving on. Next up is the horned elephant beetle. It's worth 8,000 bells. In the northern hemisphere, it spawns between July and August, between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the southern hemisphere, it spawns between January and February, also between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. This beetle only spawns on coconut palms. It's one of the larger beetles in the game, so it's easy to spot. It's also sure to give blathers nightmares, so make sure to donate it to the museum. Next, let's talk about the giant stag. It's worth 10,000 bells. In the northern hemisphere, it's available between July and August, between the hours of 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's available between January and February, also between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. The giant stag spawns on trees, which means it can spawn on coconut palms and any of the other trees in your town, and you'll either have to stay up or wake up in the morning to try to catch it. The good news is that it's very large and easy to spot. Next up is the Scarab Beetle. It's worth 10,000 bells. In the Northern Hemisphere, it's available between July and August, between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m., just like the giant stag. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's available between January and February, also between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. The Scarab Beetle can spawn on trees, so keep an eye on both the coconut palms and your normal trees in town. From far away and in the dark, it's possible to confuse the Scarab Beetle for a drone beetle, but it's smaller, its shell is silver, and the mark on its back is a little bit smaller. If this is the one you're after, just try not to be on autopilot when you're running to scare away the other drone beetles. And finally, let's talk about the last three beetles that are such a pain to catch that it may keep you up at night. The horned Hercules is worth 12,000 bells. In the Northern Hemisphere, it spawns between July and August, between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the Southern Hemisphere, it spawns between January and February, also between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. The horned Hercules only spawns on coconut palms. This insect is very skittish, so I recommend sneaking up on it from relatively far away so you don't risk losing it. While it's difficult to track down, its dark horn and orange body at least make it easy to spot. I caught about 3 of these in the time it took me to catch all of the stag beetles, but the next 2 gave me the most trouble. The golden stag is worth 12,000 bells. It's available in the Northern Hemisphere between July and August, between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's available between January and February, also between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. The golden stag only spawns on coconut palms. In the dark, its golden color doesn't really help it stand out, and it's easy to confuse it for a rainbow stag because its mandibles are sort of the same shape. I caught 2 of these in the time it took to catch all the rare beetles. But it's this next beetle that took me the most time to track down and the most effort to catch. The Giraffe Stag is worth 12,000 bells. In the Northern Hemisphere, it can be caught between July and August and between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In the Southern Hemisphere, it spawns between January and February, also between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. This bug also spawns exclusively on coconut palms. Other than its rarity, one of the tricky things about the Giraffe Stag is that it sort of looks like some of the other common beetles that you often find on trees, and it's very easy to scare away by accident. Its long mandibles are what help set it apart, and it doesn't really look like a cyclommatus stag, so that's usually a good way to tell. Catching all the rare beetles is a daunting task and a huge accomplishment. It was especially challenging being in the Southern Hemisphere trying to catch them all in the Northern Hemisphere because I had to go visit friends. When the airport gate is open, it makes it pretty tricky to try to churn bug spawns so that you get enough shots at trying to catch the real rare ones. An added bonus wasn't just that the Giraffe Stag was the last beetle I had to catch, but is also the last bug I needed to complete my Critterpedia. I guess I can retire now from bug catching, or at least I could if there wasn't a Nook Miles achievement for catching 5,000 bugs. Catching all the bugs rewards you with a golden net DIY that'll be in your mailbox the next day. This Nook Miles achievement also gives you the title Scarce Critter. And it truly is a thing of beauty to be able to open your Critterpedia page and see all the bugs inside. I guess the last thing that I have to do in this game is track down all of the diving creatures. As difficult as collecting all the bugs was, it was a lot of fun. And I'm sure the coming updates will have more to keep the Animal Crossing completionists busy. Make sure to donate all your hard-earned catches to the museum so you could check out the nightly bug fights on the trees. Anyway, this was a lot of information. You're a champ for sticking it out. I really hope this guide helps you catch all the rare beetles and complete your Critterpedia once and for all. Thanks for watching.